Ethan Cole had always believed trust was the cheapest currency in business, and the most expensive one to lose. He met Jason Mercer on a rainy Monday in a co-working space where every neon sign looked like a promise. Ethan was 36, careful and methodical, the kind of man who built systems and lived inside spreadsheets. Jason was 38, magnetic and quick, the kind of man who could sell an idea so smoothly you would forget you were being sold. They did not become friends first. They became partners. Together they built Harbor & Pine, a small home goods brand with clean design and premium margins. Ethan ran operations, inventory, vendors, fulfillment, budgets. Jason ran growth, buyers, investors, marketing, relationships. In the early months, they did things the right way. They formed the company, opened a business account, hired a bookkeeper, and signed an operating agreement that was simple but firm. 50-50 ownership, 2 managers. Major decisions required both signatures. No unilateral withdrawals outside payroll and approved expenses. Jason signed it with a grin and called it just paperwork. Ethan did not argue. He had seen enough businesses die to know partnerships do not collapse from one dramatic moment. They collapse from small shortcuts that feel harmless until the day they are not. That day arrived on a Thursday night. Ethan was at home reviewing supplier invoices when his banking app buzzed. Outgoing transfer, $48,900. It did not match any invoice. It was not payroll. It was not taxes. He refreshed the screen. Same number, same timestamp. Destination label, JM Consulting. Ethan called Jason immediately. Ring, ring, voicemail. He tried again, voicemail. He texted, I just saw a 48,900 transfer. What is that? Call me now. No reply. At first, Ethan did what rational people do when something feels wrong. He tried to make it feel explainable. A deposit, an agency, a rushed expense. Then, the next morning, another buzz. Outgoing transfer, $22,500. Ethan did not text. He drove straight to the warehouse. Harbor & Pine space was not glamorous. Racks of product, pallets wrapped in plastic, a small glass office in the corner. Jason's desk was clean, too clean. The framed photo of them holding their first prototype was gone. The investor binder was gone. The little stack of signed vendor contracts was gone. Ethan asked the warehouse supervisor if Jason had been in. Late, the supervisor said. He said he needed documents. He took a couple boxes. Did not say much. Ethan went to the file cabinet they shared. The operating agreement was still there, but the banking folder was empty. His stomach tightened again, harder this time. He called their payment processor support line and asked if anything had changed. The representative sounded polite, almost bored. There was a request last night to change the payout account, she said. It was approved from an administrator login. That is not possible, Ethan said. Major changes require both managers. It requires administrator access, she corrected. And the two-factor code on file. Ethan's mouth went dry. A month earlier, during a stressful product launch, Jason had asked to switch the two-factor number temporarily, so approvals could happen faster. Ethan had hesitated, then agreed, just until the launch was over. Jason had smiled and said, "This is how you scale." Now Ethan opened their shared calendar. Jason had blocked off the afternoon for a supplier meeting in another city. Ethan called again. This time the number did not ring. It went straight to an automated message saying the number was no longer in service. Ethan sat at Jason's empty desk and stared at the blank spot where the photo used to be. Money could vanish in minutes. But people did not vanish unless they meant to. By noon, Ethan's fear had hardened into focus. He exported bank statements. He saved screenshots of each transfer. He pulled every email that showed account changes. He wrote down times, dates, names, and reference numbers, because the worst mistake in a crisis is to argue from memory. Then he walked into a small law office downtown and met Marisol Grant. She listened without drama, without judgment. When he finished, she folded her hands and gave him the first piece of clarity he had had in 24 hours. Ownership does not give a manager permission to treat company funds like personal money, she said. And your operating agreement matters, Ethan swallowed. So what is this, legally? Several things, Marisol said. At minimum, it looks like breach of contract and breach of fiduciary duty. If he took company funds for himself without authorization, that can also be conversion. And if he used deception, changing payout instructions, moving money while making you believe it was business fraud becomes part of the conversation. Ethan stared at her. Fiduciary duty between partners, especially between partners, she said. The law expects loyalty and good faith when someone has power over shared assets. Self-dealing is the fastest way to turn a partnership into a courtroom. Ethan's phone buzzed again. An email from their biggest wholesale buyer. The last invoice, it said, had been paid to a different account. They had received new wire instructions from Jason. They were holding the next order until they got confirmation. Ethan's pulse jumped. Jason was not just draining money. He was rerouting revenue before it even reached the company. Marisol read the email once and did not need to read it again. That is interference, she said. And it is urgent. What do we do today? Ethan asked. We stopped the bleeding, she said. Passwords changed. Two-factor reset back to you. Admin access locked down. Then we go to court. She moved like a machine built for emergencies. A demand letter. Fraud alerts to the bank and processor. A request for an emergency court order to freeze transfers and force disclosure of any accounts receiving company money. Before Ethan left, Marisol said something that felt humiliating, but necessary. Tell your employees there is an issue, she said. No details. But make it clear, nobody follows instructions from him. And nobody hands over documents. Silence is how confusion spreads. Back at the warehouse, Ethan gathered his team. Their faces made him feel the weight of what this business really was. Not a brand, not a logo, a payroll, a promise. There is a financial situation, he said. Jason is unavailable. Until further notice, approvals run through me. If anyone gets messages from Jason, forward them to me, and do nothing else. No one spoke for a moment. Then someone asked the question Ethan did not want to answer. Are we going to be okay? Ethan could have lied. He did not. We are fighting for it, he said. And I am not letting it go without a fight. The courthouse the next morning felt colder than the weather outside. There was no jury, no spotlight, no cinematic. Just a judge, a clerk, and a stack of documents that translated betrayal into facts. Marisol spoke cleanly. Unauthorized transfers, changed payout accounts, missing records, disconnected phone, redirected client payments. The judge read quietly, then asked one question. How much is at risk if this continues? Potentially 6 figures within weeks, Marisol said. And the loss of client trust may not be repairable. The judge nodded once, like someone who had seen the same story in different clothes. I'm issuing a temporary restraining order, she said. No transfers, no withdrawals. No redirection of company revenue. The defendant must disclose all accounts receiving company funds. Expedited discovery is granted, and an accounting will be ordered. Ethan felt his shoulders drop a fraction. It wasn't victory, but it was air. Within days, the paper trail started to itself. The JM Consulting account existed. It was new. Jason was the only signatory. Client payments had been routed there. Some of that money had already been moved again, broken into smaller transfers, pushed farther away. Marisol explained what it meant. "He's trying to create distance," she said. "That's common when someone wants plausible deniability." 2 days later, Jason resurfaced through an email. "Ethan," he wrote, "was overreacting. Everything was for the business. Ethan was trying to steal his half. If Ethan didn't stop, Jason would tell clients Ethan was unstable and ruin the brand." Ethan didn't reply. He forwarded it to Marisol. She answered with one sentence: "We respond in court." At the injunction hearing, Jason finally appeared, dressed like success and smiling like nothing had happened. His lawyer called the transfers consulting fees, called the payout change operational efficiency, called Ethan paranoid. Marisol didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult him. She simply laid the foundation. The operating agreement limited unilateral authority. The buyer email proved Jason changed wire instructions without consent. The disconnected number and missing files showed intent. The threat email showed leverage and coercion, not business. The judge looked at Jason for a long moment. Then she spoke with the tone of someone who had stopped being patient. "This court is not here for branding disputes," she said. "This is about control of company assets." She extended the injunction, ordered a full accounting, and appointed a neutral examiner to trace the transfers. She warned that violations would lead to sanctions. She also made clear that if the examiner confirmed self-dealing, the court could remove Jason from management authority and impose monetary remedies. For the first time, Jason's smile slipped. Weeks later, the examiner's report confirmed what Ethan already knew in his gut: unauthorized disbursements, redirected revenue, personal benefit disguised as business. The court ordered restitution of recoverable funds and stripped Jason of management power. Ethan moved to separate him permanently and protect the company from further harm. Harbor and Pine survived. Not clean, not untouched, but alive. And Ethan learned the lesson that never up in the glossy business podcasts. Trust builds a company, but enforceable rules keep it standing when trust disappears. Before Ethan could fully exhale, Marisol gave him one final reality check: quiet, practical, and strangely comforting. "In cases like this," she said, "courts don't only punish, they preserve. They freeze assets to prevent irreparable harm. They order accounting so the truth cannot be buried. They enforce fiduciary duties so partners cannot profit from betrayal. They treat misappropriated funds as something that must be returned. And when someone intentionally damages business relationships, the law recognizes that too." Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the shape of what had happened settle into something he could finally name. This was not just a personal betrayal. It was a legal line Jason crossed. And the consequences were not about revenge. They were about restoring what the business was supposed to be in the first place. Here is the moral. A 50-50 partnership does not mean you get to do whatever you want. It means you owe each other loyalty, care, and good faith, especially when you have access to the money. And if you ever forget that, the law will remind you. Because in business, trust is powerful. But when trust disappears, the paper is what protects the people who stayed.